She's standing on a scorch, though, so that's no good. Okay. Ew! She had one in her mouth to change her voice, too? Oh my god! Jesus Christ! Okay, so what exactly is it? Because... Right. But what about the girls? How did she make them break the coffee? Did they have scorch on them somewhere and they didn't notice? Oh, okay, but she was using the coffee. She wasn't using their bodies, right? Okay. Uh-oh, shit! Oh, no! Oh, damn! Is it, though? I don't know. I'm thinking about it, but like... Oh, shit! Why? Uh-oh. Oh, really? Y'all are not going anywhere now. Like, you know what I mean? Y'all are definitely not going anywhere. Oh, no. Oh, shit. The N-word thing. They just dropped that. Oh. Yeah, like Edward. Right, exactly. Ah, John, that's bad. Oh, wait, the human will die? Oh, no. So does that mean Christopher is alive? Or is it Anthony? Or did they never even get that far to begin with? Oh, dear. Oh, so they're just making a run for it. Oh, okay. The first time. Oh, that's how she found... Oh, shit! Damn. So this is how it happened. Oh, I see. Okay. Oh. Oh, yeah, she tried to go down there, but then Barbara caught her. Oh, no, it's not locked. Oh, shit. Well, that's fucked up. Oh, no, that's crazy. Oh, I see. Oh, dear. That's not good. Okay, you know what? I'm kind of Team Rosemary again. I thought that this had to do with Christopher and she was trying to free everyone for Christopher, but she was actually doing it for her. So you know what? I changed my mind. Like, you know what I mean? I thought she wanted to continue like Christopher's mission or something. Okay. Well, that's good. That's nice, I guess. Oh. Oh no! So I'm not as conflicted as I was. Oh no! See, that's probably the worst thing that could have happened. Like, they care about each other. Oh dear. Yeah, okay, but what about Barbara though? Like, what happened there, you know? Oh, but like, she has Kate. She'll be okay. Oh no! Oh, I feel bad now. Now I feel bad. Oh. Oh. Well, that's nice. What if Kate already called Barbara then to expose them? Because that's an idea that I had last episode, that like, Kate already called Barbara preemptively without knowing the reasoning, you know? Which may be not good. Uh-oh. Oh no! Really? Oh, seriously? Are they fucking kidding? Oh, Rosemary! Well, that's not good. Okay. Oh, I see. Oh, That is true. But, oh, we'll retreat? Uh-oh. Well, that's not good. They're just gonna make a run for it? What about Emily, Cohen, Sean, bro? Well, I guess they're doing their best. So why couldn't she go out this way? Does this way also lead to a cliff? Like, you know what I mean? Like, in terms of the forest? Is there not a wall or anything? Wahoo! Oh, damn! They followed them all the way out there! That's crazy! Oh, no, you guys! I think something may happen to Rosemary and Maryrose, like, in their folly sort of thing. But, like, this is so fucked! I was rooting for them, finally, and now I'm not rooting for them, and, like, this is so fucked up, man! Oh, that was smart. I like that. Uh-oh. Ah, shit! She has that shit bagged! Huh? Oh, I see how it works. Uh-oh. Oh, no! Oh! No, from her soot! Oh, shit, no! No, John, don't give her any soot! Oh, no, John! Yeah, it's everybody's soot! That's why she can do the coffee, because the coffee had soot in it, right? Ha! This is kind of funny. It's not, but, like, it's a little funny. Also, it's pretty cool. Can you just ride that thing into town? You know, I know that there's a cliff or something, but can't y'all just, like, that's pretty tall. Just make one that's the size of the cliff or a bird and fly away. Like, you know what I mean? Make a phantom like a bird and fly on its back and leave. I don't know. I'm just saying, did they really have to threaten them like this? Like, has she never thought about making a phantom that could fly? Maybe that's not a thing. Maybe I'm wrong, you know? I don't know. Yeah, I know, you guys just left them. What the fuck? Oh, dear. Oh, shit. Who? Who the fuck is this? I don't like this man. I don't like Thomas. Sorry. Oh, Thomas was the children's wing warden. Oh, damn. Okay. Damn, that's fucked up. Okay, so they have conflict. That's interesting. Yeah, they think she's failing on purpose, maybe. Oh, were they there? Do they remember? Was Edward with them when they were kids? What the fuck? Damn, oh no. Well, back to Kate. Oh, man. Okay, well, who's in there right now, though? Oh no, it does seem to kill them. But I thought Ed and Edward were talking to each other. Maybe he's just talking to Ed because he misses him or something. You know what I mean? Oh, so that's what the box does. Didn't we see this box once? When they snuck into the adult wing? Uh-oh. So that's not good. So who's in there now is the question. That doesn't look promising. Uh-oh. Whoever it was, they fucking died, I think. Uh-oh. Is that Anthony? No. Who the fuck was that? All right, everybody, let us get into the discussion now. And remember that that, if you guys want to support the channel, you can check out the Patreon for the full-length timer and subtitle reaction watch-along that is basically not cut up. You can see the whole thing instead of the highlight that I just showed you if you would like to for all previous episodes, as well as some other anime that I have on there as well. I have the entirety of season 1 like that, not cut up at all. I also have it for Attack on Titan and things like that. So if you're interested in supporting us, supporting the uploads, you can go ahead and check that out. But otherwise, let us just get into this episode, because this was like so badass in every way possible. Like, I just can't believe how good this episode was. There were some things though, like, I guess I'll say writing wise, I think that this episode was good, but there were a couple things that I thought were kind of weird, like animation wise, and some things that I'll talk about. You know, I'm not usually one for like animation criticism, you know, like usually I don't notice things like that, but there were a couple things that were noticeable this episode, so I just want to talk about that a little bit. But I think, like, in terms of, like, the story, this was, like, a 10 out of 10 episode. Like, I just love Maryrose. I like hearing about her motivation and everything. And I thought what was interesting was, I guess I, like, kind of misinterpreted her just based off of, you know, something that she says in this episode with her, like, motivations and stuff. Because I was sort of thinking that, like, her and Christopher had this plan, and, like, Christopher wanted to do the rebellion too, and then it fell through, and Christopher died, and it was, like, a whole thing. Like, that was my theory from a couple episodes ago. And basically, my theory was that Maryrose was sort of picking up where he left off, so to speak. Like, knowing that Kate was around and that Kate was also rebellious, she wanted to, like, work with her and, like, do the rebellion again. That was basically my theory, right? And I sort of had pegged Maryrose's ideology for maybe being kind of like a light Yagami situation. Like, yeah, you know, I'm gonna hurt some kids, but, like, fuck them kids, you know? It's gonna be okay in the long run. Like, this is for, like, the good of everybody in the long run. So I kind of got that completely wrong. That is not why she's doing anything. It's more like a Bonnie and Clyde situation. Like, I think that she's doing it because she's in love with Rosemary. That's sort of the vibe that I'm getting. So I was kind of wrong about sort of like, I don't know, like a moral motivation, if that makes sense, or like an ideological motivation. It is literally to save Rosemary's life, which is interesting because that made her, I think, more likable. It made me want to root for her more, because I sort of had her pegged again as like that Lelouch or like light Yagami character who is like getting people hurt or like hurting people, but like the ends justify the means. Like, that was the theory I had. But this is very different because she's doing it just because she loves her, and like, we didn't mean for people to get hurt, but this was our only chance to escape. Like, it's a lot more desperate. It's less methodical and a lot more desperate. I mean, you know, she's still doing bad things, right? You know, my friend Hunter says this all the time. My friend Hunter says, we support women's rights, but we also support women's wrongs. And that kind of feels like this sort of situation. Like, she's still bad. You know what I mean? Like, she's still like chasing after like Kate and John, and like the Scorches attacked Emily Co. and Sean, obviously, so she's still a bad guy. You know what I mean? She's still an antagonist. But, like, I like how they were like, okay, we're gonna make you root for Maryrose for, like, 5 minutes, and then you're gonna kind of stop rooting for her. You know what I mean? It puts you in a very tense situation where maybe, like, if, again, Maryrose was that kind of light Yagami type character, you wouldn't root for her. Like, you know what I mean? When emotions are involved versus everything being, like, methodical, like, you know, like, step-by-step plan, it makes, I don't know, for me anyway, it made it emotionally resonate more, because it's easy to say, well, Maryrose, you know, you had this plan, and this plan, like, got people, like, hurt, and got people, like, severely, like, sick and everything. Like, it's one thing to say that, which would still be true, but it's a different thing to say, oh, but you did this because you're in love with someone, and you want to save them, and you don't want them to literally die, right? Like, Light wasn't trying, I mean, I guess you could say he was trying to stop people from dying, but he wasn't trying to stop someone he loved from dying. You know what I mean? It's more personal when it's a motivation like this. And so I hope I explained that right. But this is interesting because this is just a lie. It does not have to be her set, which is why I was a little bit confused, but I think that that's how the coffee worked, right? Which I guess that this was a clue that this was a lie, because then you would be asking yourself, okay, well, how did the coffee work then? Did she, like, stick some soot onto the twins, you know? But Kate doesn't catch that at first, obviously, and so it's anybody's soot, and that's why, because there's coffee, like, mixed in the soot and everything, right? And so, yeah, I just like John's little joke here. I feel like this is, like, the last joke for a while. I mean, there were some funny moments this episode, like, they still are able to keep up the tone and everything, but you guys know what I mean. But yeah, so Kate didn't notice this at first, you know, like, with the coffee and everything. I mean, maybe she thought that, like, she just stuck some of her own soot into the coffee, but basically, Maryrose seems to be lifting the soot that's in the coffee that came from whatever Scorch had made it. At least that's the implication that I get looking at that. But I guess she just thought that she did it, like, differently. You know what I mean? Because she's talking about, like, oh, at the debut I made Emily dance. It's like that. But it's not quite like that. At least I don't think so, right? But this was basically what I was, you know, thinking, was like, you're such a hypocrite, you're using your doll just because you want to, like, forward Christopher's message, but I was wrong, like, it wasn't even about Christopher, like, you know what I mean? Because I sort of had this thing of, like, oh, you know, Maryrose lost Christopher, and she wants to pick up where he left off and, like, free all the living dolls kind of for that reason, to continue the rebellion, but she's a hypocrite because she is using her own doll to do so. Like, that's basically the theory I had, and I thought that line about, like, treat your face with care, I thought that was sort of like a hypocritical thing to say. I thought that was supposed to be a hint towards her hypocrisy, but now in hindsight you can actually see that she said that because she was remorseful, that she didn't actually want to do that to Rosemary, or yeah, she didn't want to do that to Rosemary. She had to do it for the plan to succeed, and so that kind of recontextualizes her a lot. So again, now that my theory about why exactly she was doing things is wrong, we can kind of look at those lines in her previous behavior. She was saying that not because, like, you know, not because of a double meaning or anything like that. Oh, you know, she's so hypocritical. She's saying that about her face, but she used her face for her plan, right? She doesn't care about what Maryrose wants, which is a theory I had before, right? But it's actually because she had no other choice, so she's actually lamenting in that dialogue previously, which I think is interesting, because I sort of had it pegged as, like, Rosemary kind of being the unwilling, like, victim of the plan, especially with the ending, because I had, like, oh, you know, they're looking at the flower, and somebody else is looking at the flower, and then, like, the will-o'-the-wisp and everything, like, I had this whole thing constructed based off of the end song and which directions people were looking and stuff like that, and I was like, oh, well, what if Rosemary, you know, isn't actually on board with escaping or something, and that's why, like, da-da-da-da-da, I don't know if you guys remember that, but I basically had this theory that Rosemary, because she was looking away, or, like, whatever direction she was looking, I don't remember, it's been a while since I've seen it, like, because she was looking in not the same direction as, like, where the other characters were looking, she didn't actually want to escape, and that maybe, like, the only place she felt valued was in the house or something like that. But yeah, seeing Rosemary was a shock, too, because I didn't actually, like, expect it. I talked about this a bit in the Patreon version of the reaction, but something that didn't occur to me in previous weeks was that if Maryrose was punished, Rosemary would be too, which is such a basic thing because we've seen that in the show before. But, you know, last week I was kind of like gung-ho, if that makes sense. I was like, yeah, turn her in, who cares? Like, she's a hypocrite, turn her in, right? But I didn't consider that that would have repercussions for Rosemary. And that's something that Maryrose was kind of, like, talking about, you know, that, like, Rosemary would be punished unjustly because of Maryrose's actions. Like, you know, they didn't say that exactly, but there was, like, that vaguely in there that, like, Kate would be just as big of a hypocrite if she turns Maryrose in, because then Rosemary would have gotten, like, a punishment that she didn't deserve and stuff like that. Like, she would be tortured, as one of you guys mentioned that in the comments, that she would probably be tortured, and it wouldn't be anything to do with her. It would have been what Maryrose had done. At least before we found out that Rosemary was, like, okay with all of this, right? And so I thought that that was interesting because I just didn't think about that for some reason. Like, I don't know why, but it just kind of poofed out of my head that she would get any punishment. Why were we talking about this? Oh yeah, because I was surprised that we saw her. I didn't realize that we would. And they're definitely going with, at least in my opinion, I don't know if you guys agree, but I do think that this is supposed to be romantic, right? Especially how it, like, I don't know, like, how they touch each other, I guess. Like, I think it is, like, they're in love, and this is, like, Bonnie and Clyde, like, we're either going to, like, go on this suicide mission and go into the adult wing and, like, escape, like, and try to run away, or, like, you know, we're gonna die trying, basically. Like, you know, we're gonna try to escape, and if we both die together escaping, it just be like that sometimes. That's kind of how it feels, right? But let's talk about the unification thing, because we kind of knew this, but I think that I didn't realize that the doll would die, because I swear that there was a moment where Edward was talking to himself, but I guess he's not. I guess he's not. He maybe, you know what's really fucking sad? You know how John says, like, a little bit later in this dialogue, he says something like, oh, you know, will we never be able to speak with each other again? You know what I think's happening with Ed and Edward, maybe? Or I guess it's just Edward, right? What if, like, he was talking to Ed, or he's kind of taken on, like, the dual personality of who Ed used to be to, like, cope or something? Like, it could be something like that. You know what I mean? Because I know that he was pretending, like, oh, yes, I'm Ed, I'm the doll of Edward, right? Like, he was pretending in those scenes, right? Because the children, like, in the debut scenes, because the children can't know, right, that, like, they're now unified in the same person. But, like, even in his internal, I thought that there was a moment where he was talking to himself inside of his head, like, that he was talking to Ed inside his head, if that makes sense, or, like, the other way around. But I think that you guys had corrected me back then, and I did look it up just to make sure that that was not actually happening, that he was just talking to himself, and that the human is, like, dead. You guys didn't say that, because that would have been a spoiler, but, like, looking it up now, like, I looked up the Ed and Edward thing, and yeah, I think he was just dead. Like, you know what I mean? I don't think he was actually talking to his other self, like that the consciousness of the doll is like big chillin', you know? I don't think that that's how it works. I think it is dead, but that would be a very interesting thing if, like, Edward missed Ed so much that he, I don't know, like, imagined what Ed would say to him. Like, I could imagine that if Patrick was in that situation, for example, he would imagine what Ricky would say in that moment, right? Because Ricky is kind of the brains of everything, you know? Also, that in mind, if Patrick does not change, I would be worried about him. I'm sure none of, like, the main cast will end up becoming adults, because I think that that's kind of like they're gonna run away before that's possible to happen, you know? But, you know, in theory, that would be bad, right? Also, I had a thought about Barbara in that regard, but we'll talk about that later. But yeah, I wonder in the case of Ed and Edward, I would have to go back and, like, watch the anime scenes just to check. But I wonder if he was just, like, talking to himself to cope, basically. You know what I mean? Like, oh, you know, see this through, Edward. Like, that's what Ed would say, like, or something like that, right? I feel like that maybe he's also doing things so the death of his own doll isn't in vain. And he also has an interesting line of dialogue later where he seemed to know Maryrose, like, as a kid, right? Like, in Rosemary. So I'm like, what the fuck? Like, I guess Edward is closer in their age than I thought. And so that's kind of depressing, you know? Like, to think about, like, oh, you know, if Kate saved everyone almost a couple years ago, like, if Kate came and saved everyone before, like, they would still, you know, maybe some people wouldn't have had to die and, like, whatever, right? And so I think that that's something interesting to think about too, is the adults that are already there and have already lost their dolls and there's no going back. It's just kind of sad. I mean, obviously it's not Kate's fault, it's just kind of sad, you know what I mean? Anyway, I'm not gonna go through all of this per se. I think that this is a little sus though. Like, oh, one day, like, I figured out how to manipulate the Scorches. Like, I don't know, I think that that's a little sus, and I do have, again, this theory that either Christopher or Anthony is still alive. I don't know why she would leave that out of the story at this point, just because, like, you know what I mean? She's already telling them everything, but she is only restraining them. She's not trying to kill them. She's just trying to restrain them until she runs away. So if Anthony is, like, lurking around, or Christopher is lurking around, or whatever, I guess she wouldn't want to tell them, but I wonder if, like, I don't know, maybe Anthony helped her out with this, and, like, we just don't know. I don't know, because it's like, oh, you know, one day, suddenly, and we know that Maryrose lies, right? So, like, that could be kind of some bullshit. Like, oh, suddenly, you know, I thought it was just good luck. I found out I was able to do this. Like, I don't believe that, bitch. Like, you can't hide from me. Something is going on, but anyway. And so, yeah, I think this was a good plan, sort of. Like, you know, it didn't go out very well, but, like, in theory, it was a good plan. I do wonder, like, it looks like Barbara's sad here. Obviously, it's hard to tell, but she's not smiling. She's not like, oh, look, like, haha, like, you know what I mean? When Kate, like, smiles, you can see it. Like, she looks kind of stoic presenting the invitation. And, like, oh my god, like, it's so funny to see Rosemary kind of mad as well. Not funny. This is not funny. I'm just saying, like, you know what I mean? It's just an expression we don't see a lot. And so, yeah, I think that this was a good explanation. It made me, like, again, I'm sure that other people didn't have the same problem because some people didn't even suspect Maryrose to begin with. Like, I think I told you guys this last week, but I looked on, like, the anime discussion on Reddit, it, and some people were like, whoa, like, I didn't expect this. Did anybody say that? And I was like, I expected this, I said this. But, you know, that in mind, a lot of anime-onlys probably didn't necessarily see it coming, so they didn't have a preconceived notion of how she was, so I wonder how this scene would affect them. But, like, going into this episode, I clearly had a preconceived notion of Maryrose's character, and I was wrong, but they were still able to win me over with this explanation. So I think that that was, like, really good. You know what I mean? Like, I just thought that that was interesting. But yeah, it's crazy that the entrance to the house is just like, and like, did they build it that way? Or did they destroy the bridge? Like, you know what I mean? Did there used to be a bridge here and it's gone? Did somebody do that with their soot powers? Because that's something Kate says as well. Like, you know, if Maryrose is like this, well, fuck. Like, how are the adults in the adult wing? Like, could one of them have bulldozed this? Like, you know what I mean? Are they that powerful? Like, that's sort of an interesting thought too as well. So, okay, so this is gonna be my little, like, nitpick, I guess. But, like, I don't understand why she can't just make a phantom that, like, flies away. You know what I mean? Like, not to sound stupid, but, like, I don't understand why she can't make a phantom to cross the gorge. I guess just because, like, I guess we don't know how deep it is, but couldn't you make a bridge or, like, a bridge out of soot or something, like, from this position? I guess we would have to see the outside, but that's kind of, I don't want to call it a plot hole, but that's something that I thought was kind of weird about this episode. Like, you couldn't make something to scale down the mountain, bitch? Like, we see, like, she makes this big one. I know that she would need a lot of soot, but, like, I don't know, like, she could have collected it or something. Like, the effort that it took to come up with this suicide mission, I'm sure she could have thought about this. Like, you know what I mean? I don't know, it seems weird because she can make this big one that, like, stands up in the water, and I know it wasn't that big, like, as big as this canyon or something, but, like, John also makes a bridge of soot, so, like, I don't know, can we get a rope or something? Like, I know it would be dangerous, but, like, I don't know. I was just sort of thinking, I was like, okay, well, you're able to make this big thing, but what are the limitations? And we know that this lady makes a fucking bird. Like, you know what I mean? Like, she made birds during the debut that were, like, watching stuff and shit. So, like, you can't make a big scorch phantom bird, I guess? I don't know. Like, you know what I mean? Maybe she can't. Maybe that's the answer, is that, no, I can't. I tried that already. But that was just something that sort of stuck out to me, is like, but was this really the only way? So, like, that's the one thing. The second thing is, okay, and I know that this did not happen in the manga, but this is kind of funny. Because she's like, oh yeah, like Lord Grandfather's wing, it's a completely impenetrable fortress. And I just thought that was funny because, like, last season, we went into the adult wing. We weren't supposed to. It was anime only, but I'm kind of understanding now, like, why people were a little pissed about that. Like, outside of, like, you know, exposing the fact that Shirley was alive before, like, manga readers had any idea that she would be coming back. Like, you know, aside from that, which I already kind of understood why people didn't like that, I kind of get now, like, why people don't like the little anime-only ending. Like, I kind of understand, because at the time, I didn't think that it was that big of a deal, honestly. And, like, even when season 2 started, I didn't think that it was that big of a deal, right? Like, oh, Edward's been punished, they just, you know, swept it up and we're back on track. Like, it didn't seem like that big of a deal. But, like, it's kind of funny now when you think about it, because they literally snuck into the adult wing last season, and they're like, oh yes, a completely impenetrable fortress. And so that kind of calls into question, well, okay, if Kate could do it, why can't Maryrose and Rosemary do it? Obviously, the answer is nobody's fucking done that, right? Because that was an anime-only ending. And so part of me is just like, okay, I can just pretend that we didn't see that. Like, you know what I mean? I could just put that out of my mind. It was an anime-only ending. It never happened. Nobody ever snuck into the adult wing. But it does kind of, like, ruin this a little bit. Like, you know what I mean? Because a lot of people who watch the anime, right, they won't know that. And so, I don't know. It's not as easy to say just pretend the plot point never happened. You know what I mean? Just because some people, like, if I was getting, like, my mom to watch this or something, you know, like, she wouldn't know all that. She wouldn't know, oh yeah, this was an anime only ending, just ignore it going forward. Like, just because it should have not been there doesn't mean it's not there. It still happened, right? And so even though it wasn't supposed to be in there, it was there, but they said this anyway, knowing the fact it was there. And so it does reduce, I guess, the impact of her saying that it's impenetrable, and it makes you think, wow, Maryrose, could you not have thought of another fucking plan? Because fine, like, say what you want to say about them scaling down the mountain. Maybe that's not possible and I'm just wrong, right? Like, you know what I mean? But, like, this part, it does, it's just kind of funny because, like, Kate and John, did John go too? I don't remember. Anyway, Kate at least snuck into the adult wing and, like, nobody caught her. And so you're telling me, like, y'all couldn't have, I don't know, I'm just saying, you know, it's just a thing, right? And so, yeah, so that's the only thing that I was sort of thinking about that I thought was, like, kind of funny. But, like, you know, again, it wasn't supposed to be there. I understand that. I just think that, like, if you're an anime-only viewer, it does kind of come off as a little, like, oh, like, you know what I mean? It does, I don't want to say it's bad writing, per se, but it impacts, like, I hate this word, but it impacts the power scaling of people, yes, and, like, the believability of, like, some actions from last season, and, like, oh, well, really, Maryrose, you guys couldn't sneak in just like Kate did, like, that sort of thing, you know? I think that those are my only two, like, criticisms for, like, the dialogue of this episode. Like, those were the only two things. Or I guess not the dialogue, but more like, why can't Maryrose scale down the mountain? And then also, like, oh, it's an impenetrable fortress, huh? Like, you know what I mean? Like, those two things, those are the only things that, like, bothered me. You know, everything else, like, I think is fair game, right? And so I really like this. I like, clearly they're going for something romantic, or at least I think it's clear. I don't know. Like, I don't know if other people feel that way. To me, it's clear, right? But they do mention, right, like, you know we are being selfish. When others learned of the secrets of this house and were disposed of, we stood by and watched. So I'm pretty sure that's probably about Christopher, if I had to make a guess, you know? And so I do like that at least, like, Rosemary is at least sympathetic, but she's like, but I'm gonna die. So my emotions kind of, you know, become, like, muted at this point. We have nothing, you know, there's nothing we can do. Like, it do be like that sometimes. But I do like this. I don't know if they're just stroking Kate's ego, but I would like to believe that this is true. Even though she's sort of setting up to, like, you know, hug the dolls and find an excuse to hug them, I do think this is true. And I like Kate having empathy, right? I think that that's really good. I just really like how, like, she's also the audience's empathy in a way. Like, imagine if Kate and Emily Co. were like this. Like, could we justify it as the audience if Kate did it? And if we could justify it if Kate did it, we kind of have to accept it if, like, Rosemary does it, because that's, like, hypocritical. If you don't accept it either way, you know that's fine. But, like, you know what I mean? So I think that that's sort of interesting. Yeah, and so this is kind of the problem I had with, like, the animation, I mean, is that they do not look surprised enough. So that's the first thing. So the second thing is, it was her crying during this scene, right? Because she's not moving at all, and when I imagine people cry, I'm imagining, like, the shoulders, like the, like, you know what I mean? Like, when people cry, like, I don't know how to explain it, their shoulders, I don't want to say their shoulders shake, but, like, some people, their upper body, like, moves a lot, so it was kind of weird that she's just crying and not moving at all, right? I don't know, is that just me? But I just found it really weird. I feel like the budget for some of this episode went somewhere. Does that make sense? I feel like that some of the budget disappeared. I don't know if that's just me or if that's just, like, the vibe that I got, but, like, some of the animation did not seem, I don't know, it didn't seem normal. It seemed like that they had cut corners on some things, you know? Also with the adults, it kind of seems like that, and I'll explain what I mean by that later on, but I get it, right? You know, you want to save the good shit for, like, the last couple episodes, but it was just sort of weird, like, the lack of surprise at some points, and, like, the lack of, like, you know, breathing, I guess, when they're crying, right? You can't make them breathe all the time. I understand that. That would be tedious, but, like, at least then. But yeah, I thought that this was fucked up, like, you know, don't get in our way. Like, that was pretty fucked. But, you know, I kind of like that, because Rosemary was like, yeah, I'm not as dim-witted as I may seem. Like, she's definitely not. Rosemary is also a bad bitch. Yeah, and so I guess that they're getting their invitation, and so that's why they're basically doing all this, because they want to get their invitation to go into the adult wing, right? They've been stalling it all this time to find an escape, but now they have no choice, and so they actually do want to become adults so they can go in, or I guess not become adults, but they want to get accepted into the wing so they can find an escape before they are unified, right? Also, the fact that Maryrose knows this information is also giving me, like, Anthony told her vibes, right? Or, like, Christopher, or whatever, right? And so I think that that's definitely something that's gonna come up. It's like, how did she know? And it's gonna be like, she knows because Anthony is also going around in a robe trying to do rebellion. I don't know, right? But, like, you know what I mean? Or Christopher. Anthony or Christopher. We don't know which one's alive. But yeah, and so that's just sort of what I'm thinking too. I don't know. I don't think it would be weird to have Christopher alive, but it would kind of be nice contrast that, like, one of the robed people was a shadow, one of the robed people was a human, but, like, we have no evidence for a second robe yet. That was just, like, my headcanon for something that may be, like, cool to, like, happen. It's like, oh, here's the twist. The robed person is still out there. I don't know. I just kind of made that up, and it's like I was already wrong about, like, Maryrose and, like, Christopher and Anthony somewhat, so, like, I don't know. Like, you know what I mean? I should stop making things up, because then when they don't happen, I'm like, oh, what? Like, you know what I mean? But I like what they did with Maryrose still, even though my theory was kind of wrong. But yeah, and so this was not great, you know, this was not cash money. It was good, like, it was a good scene, but not for them. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it was crazy, like, this, like, fight, like, situation and everything. But yeah, and so I'm gonna skip through most of this, because I don't think we need all of it, but I do like, the lesson number one. I think that the stage metaphor is cool. I do like, how she's sort of challenging her, because she's sort of imagining, like, I'm not gonna kill you. I'm, like, imparting these last lessons on you before I fuck off, because even though I am fucking off and I do have to restrain you, like, for a minute, like, you are gonna be stuck here for a long time, so figure it out, bitch. Like, you know what I mean? You need these lessons so you can survive here and do the rebellion things I couldn't do, you know? Yeah, so with this, I don't know if this was all an act. I'd like to think a little bit was genuine. Like, her words were truthful, but she still used it, and I think Kate is right. Like, I think that Kate ultimately, like, has the right idea. And I do like this idea that they're on, like, autopilot after a while because of the washing room scene. I thought that was interesting. And so, yeah, like, you know, when you think about it, yeah, she has more information on Soot, but she also has more information. How the fuck did she know some of this? Like, you know what I mean? How did she know some of these things? We still don't know that. So I hope that she'll tell us before she dies, because there are some things that are definitely left unanswered, like what happened with Christopher and everything. Because I do not think that Christopher became an adult, honestly. I think that the bridge scene was, like, interesting, but the way that John was running down the hill was really weird, again, animation-wise at one point. And so, yeah, I think that this is interesting too, because she knew that it was there, but kind of let this happen anyway, which I thought was really good. I liked sort of the glow around Kate being pulled in. So it seems like what they're doing now, which I don't think that they did before, is they're having, like, the powers glow in the color of the user who is glowing them, who is using them. Like, you know what I mean? And, like, John had a blue aura around it. I'm assuming that's because we're gonna see more Soot power in the future, and it'll just be easier, especially if there's, like, I don't know, fight scenes. Is this like a shonen anime now? You know what I mean? But I think, like, the lesson thing, like, don't show compassion to your enemies, like, that sort of thing. And that's useful too, because they may be enemies with someone who they think are their friends. Like, you know what I mean? Like, Barbara and Barbie were friends with Maryrose and Rosemary at one point. And so I think it's, like, useful, you know, lesson and information, because, you know, over the course of Kate wanting to do rebellion, they may make friends with people like Barbara and Barbie, or like the research team, and they may have to fight against those people one day because those people are star bearers. And so even if you're friends, like, you can't have that sort of compassion if you want to survive. She could also just be saying that from, like, personal experience as well. But I like Kate figuring this out. I like that she's figuring out that, you know, she doesn't just control her Soot, but it's, like, all Soot, like, Soot everywhere. And that's how the coffee thing happened, right? She wasn't, you know, there wasn't, like, a secret Soot, like, on the twins or anything. She was manipulating the Soot that was already in the coffee jars. You know, it didn't need to be hers. And so I thought that that was interesting, and I thought that that was good. And so, yeah, I like this too. One's true power should be kept secret as long as possible. But see, this is what I mean. So she makes, like, a Bigfoot phantom, right? That gets, like, yes, it's not that tall, because it like, you know, they're in the field. It couldn't scale a cliff, I guess. But, like, couldn't it though? Like, what if you got a phantom like this, and you, like, went into its mouth and just stayed in there and, like, hurled down the cliff or something? Like, I'm not saying that would be a good idea. I'm just saying, you know, people have gone down Niagara Falls in, like, barrels and stuff. How is that any different? Like, you know what I mean? People have gone down, I don't know if this is true, people have gone down Niagara Falls with, like, pillows and shit, like, in a barrel, and lived. So I'm just saying, like, could you not basically make a phantom and then stick a bunch of pillows in its mouth or something and, like, just chill in there? I don't know. I'm just trying to think of solutions. Wouldn't this be easier than going through the adult wing, right? Like, I'm just saying, like, couldn't you just wrap yourself in a sleeping bag and hope for the best? Like, in a phantom, obviously. But I'm just saying, if that phantom is, like, giant and can do things, like, I don't know, man. I'm just wondering, like, I would have liked them to, like, at least have a throwaway line about that, like, oh, this is why we can't use the Phantom to escape. Like, I would have liked something about that, but I don't know why. You know what I mean? I don't know why she couldn't. I'm thinking of tons of ideas right now. But yeah, it's not a big deal, guys. Like, it's not that big of a deal. I just think it's kind of funny. Also, I think this is interesting, right? Because, like, yeah, they have no access to soot powers, basically, but that means they have to think more like humans, I guess, which may be the point. I don't know. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that may be something, like, if you don't have access to your soot powers, you need to be as resourceful as, like, a human, right? Like, humans against the shadows type thing, but, like, the shadows try to act more human, I don't know. Like, just stuff like that. So that's something I thought of, like, if they can't use their soot powers, they may need to think more about, like, what Emily Co. and John, or Sean would do without soot powers, right? But yeah, so they're kind of introducing, like, the gap in strength, like, the adult power scaling situation. We see Edward and his, you know, his friends again, obviously. But yeah, there seems to be something weird with them. I don't know why. Just, like, some of their, like, again, like, the animation on some of them seems a little strange at times. Hello, Captain Hook. So yeah, he's given big Captain Hook energy. And, like, I don't know if there's supposed to be any Peter Pan metaphors anywhere, you know, like, in the show, but I think that would kind of be interesting, just because, you know, like, Peter Pan and stuff. Like, Peter Pan is about, like, you know, kids that never grow up, right? And so, in a way, like, the dolls never grow up, like, they never make it past adulthood. And, like, Peter Pan had the whole thing, like, with his shadow and everything, so I don't know, maybe it is intentional, but yeah, Mr. Captain Hook used to run the children's wing, you know? I don't know, obviously, there's not that much Peter Pan stuff, but that's just something I thought of, you know, like, Peter Pan has his shadow, and the shadow has a mind of its own, like, that's something that's in the story, but yeah, he has, like, big, like, Captain Hook energy. So, it seems like that he already, like, failed once. Like, you know what I mean? Does it make you feel the weight of your responsibilities? Actually, no. We're about to confirm whether they failed or not. So here's what I don't understand about this, right? Didn't they say that 2 people got called to be adults, or did they mean, like, a pair? Like, you know what I mean? But, like, the shadows aren't on the team to do, like, work anyway, so that wouldn't matter, right? I thought that they said that, like, one of the teams were disbanded because 2 people, right? Like, 2 people, 2 dolls were called to be adults, right? And, like, Maryrose, I don't think, or I guess Rosemary, sorry. Rosemary wasn't talking about herself because the adult had already been gone already. Like, the kid who was chosen to be an adult was already gone, right? And so that's what I sort of don't understand. Maybe I read that wrong, but yeah, this is the first welcoming, right? Like, oh, you know, does it make you feel the weight of your responsibility? Like, you don't know if they failed or not. So this is the first one, right? And so this is, like, the first kid that they asked, but, like, what about the second kid from that team? Or did that one fail already, and so that's what they were talking about? So I just need some clarification on that point, because that's sort of what I'm, like, because they've never seen it before. They were talking about, like, the order, oh my god, the odor and, like, the stench and everything. So yeah, anyway, and so apparently if it fails repeatedly, the warden's removed from the position. So Thomas was the former warden. So I feel like what they're doing, and, like, this could be wrong, so again, this is just a theory, right? But if I had to guess, I'm gonna theorize that, like, they're trying to set Edward up to be a little bit more sympathetic, and, like, Thomas is gonna be like, you know what I mean? Like, if we thought Edward was the true villain, like, oh, Maryrose is just doing this because she wants freedom for her doll. Edward, the adults, they're the true bad guys. I think that there's gonna be a layer on that, like, oh, but Edward's only doing this because of this. Thomas and the other adults above them, they're the true bad guys. Like, you know what I mean? I think it's gonna keep scaling until it's like everyone is a victim. Lord Grandfather is the true bad guy. Like, you know what I mean? Like, even Edward is a victim. Thomas is also a victim. Even the adults that are in, like, the upper suite, right, on the 3rd floor or whatever, like, they are also, like, victims, whether they, you know, want to address it or not. They're all victims of Lord Grandfather. So I feel like that may be the thing, is they're trying to set Edward up, like, to have an antagonist in Thomas. So, like, Thomas is the antagonist. Now, I think the implication of this was that, like, they were gonna throw down right here. It seemed like that. Like, you know what I mean? That they turned into their shadow forms because they were about to, like, to throw down and, like, fight or something. But then they were like, no, like, you know, like, I apologize, I'm quite young, like, you know, whatever. Like, please don't be mad at me, you know, whatever, right? And so he did say "are us," right? And so he's including Thomas in that, or maybe it's a double thing. He's like saying it to appease Thomas, but he doesn't mean Thomas. He means him and his two like friends. It could be like something like that, you know. He could also be saying like, "Hey, Thomas, if you leave me the fuck alone, like there are 4 spots to get to the top, right? I think there are 4 shadows up at the top right now. Like you could be one of them, right? You know, like me and my 2 friends and you. Like it could be that sort of situation. But Edward, if only one pair of 2 succeeds, that would be a hard blow to take. So see, this is a dialogue that was confusing me because I thought that the implication was that this was the first time, but maybe both pairs are in different boxes. Maybe there's not just one, right? Maybe they're both doing it at the same time and they're just checking on this one first. And then the other guy is like in the box. You know what I mean? If they said that 2 pairs were called to be adults, right? They're just checking on this one, but they think that this one may have failed, right? And then they only have the hope on the other one, basically. And so next time, Maryrose. So that's what they're saying. Like, there's 2 people, right? There's 2 pairs right now. If only one of them succeeds, that would be bad. But the girl's saying, it cancels each other out, right? Like, what? Like, +1 - 1 = 0. Like, no harm done. That's basically what she's saying. But Maryrose will definitely fail, so, you know, don't call on her. She'll fail, and that'll be bad for your score. So I do think it was supposed to be 2. This is the first one that they're checking on. The other guy is sort of like, you know, he's up in the air, right? This guy's dead, but they still have another pair that they called in. And so yeah, we're speaking of Maryrose, who used to excel. He said that like as if he knows her. What happened to her after we became adults? He's saying that at, like, you know, as if he was around her when they were all children. And so that puts Edward a lot closer to their age in a way, right? Like, what happened to her after we became adults? Like, that kind of gives the impression that, like, he knew her right before he became an adult himself. Right? And so he actually kind of wants to change the system because he's sort of suspecting that something may have happened to like Maryrose to make her not like want to become an adult anymore. You know what I mean? Because he says like that like he thinks that they're rebelling, basically. That's, you know, through all of this, that they're resistant to coming to Lord Grandfather's wing. And so basically his thought process is that they need an adult in the children's wing to make sure that people don't have reservations about being an adult. You know, I think that's why he basically says like, we have to change the system because this isn't like working, you know what I mean? The system wherein adults cannot directly affect the children's wing must be changed, right? Like Lord Grandfather's doing that because he doesn't want any, I'm assuming, accidental like transformations that reveal the secret of like the fusion and everything or whatever they're calling it. But I think he's saying that because it's like, you know, we don't know what's going on in there until they get there. And by the time they get here, you know, Maryrose has been brainwashed when before she had excellent potential. So he's thinking about that. And so I think that this is interesting, like this plan, because this is basically what he wanted to do with Kate, but now he wants to do it with Maryrose, right? And so I think that's interesting. And so we have this like cocoon thing, you know, like this whole cocoon situation and like metaphor. So this is the box that we saw last season when again, we infiltrated the adult wing and we weren't supposed to. So this is what the box was. I was like, oh my God, guys, what's the box? And I literally had like no clue. And so this is what the box is, apparently. I don't know. Again, maybe there's 2 boxes. And like, that's the thing, is that they're doing both boys at once. If they were both boys, I don't even know if they said that. But yeah, and so this guy's dead. You know, he's dead, right? That's why there's an odor, right? Maryrose, this is where your fate shall lead. Those who plot to rebellion shall be punished. And so, yeah, I'm gonna show the body horror, I guess, just so you guys can see. But yeah, and so I'll put some pictures up on the screen. But this guy looks like William, kind of. But I don't think it being William fits. So it does look like Nicholas. Except the eye color's wrong, but like he's dead. So like, you know what I mean? Hard to get the eye color right when you're dead. It could be Robert, actually, looking at the chart, but Robert's hair is a lot blonder than like Nicholas. The reason why I thought it was William, and I'll put the, you know, their photos on screen so you guys know what I'm actually talking about. Like, you know what I mean? The only people that are close in hair color, unless they changed it or it's the lighting, are, let me see, are William, Lawrence, and that's it, right? So it could be Robert, because I'm looking at the part in the hair. Yeah, and so it could be him, I guess. And he has blue eyes, so maybe it is him and it's just the lighting. But he's a lot blonder, like, in this picture that somebody sent me in this chart of, like, all of the kids. But yeah, that's why I thought it was William at first. just because William has that hair. But I actually do think that it may be Robert. It could also, it could be Nicholas. The hair is similar. Or Lawrence, like Lawrence also has long hair, but it has more like weight in the front. I love how we're just trying to identify this dead body. It could also be none of these people. It could also be none of them, right? Because maybe they were not introduced as a child in the house because they were dead. Like, you know what I mean? Maybe we didn't see them before this point because they were like dead and like not thought about and like stuff, and so yeah, this person, he's dead though, whoever he is, he's dead. And so yeah, next episode, theories. I don't know, honestly. I feel like that maybe they could go get help, right? Like they could ask Barbara for help or something, or maybe the research team, like maybe they could go to Jeremiah, especially with his like spider hands, he could help. That's like the only two things I'm thinking of, is that they're clearly outnumbered. Rosemary's still coming for their entire ass, or I guess Maryrose is. So if I were them, I would go ask the research team because they have a good relationship with the research team. Oliver seems to like accidentally give Kate information, and on purpose, and gives them something to let them escape. So like he's already like, seems like someone you could go to if you had a problem. He's not gonna like tell anybody, you know what I mean? Jeremiah has his like arm thingies, and John knows that, and so he could be helpful. And yeah, so that's basically where that like ends. And they're outside, so they could go to the shed, and Jeremiah seems to sleep in the shed, and Oliver also seems to sleep in the shed, so they could just bang on the shed and get their attention. That's what I would do if I were them. I would ask for help. I don't know. Otherwise, I'm not sure. It'll be interesting. I mean, they also introduced, what was it? They introduced something like an invention in there. Like, not the vacuum, but like the other thing. It was like, what was it? Roller skates or something? I don't know. It was something for the feet. What was it? Maybe that could help something. Anyway, I think the research team may play a role in like helping with this somehow. I don't know, but that's my initial thoughts. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this discussion. Thank you for attending Calxiyn's Royal Court today. As I said, if you guys want to support the channel, support these discussions, you can check out the Patreon for all of that stuff. And to support us as well, support the editors. I think I already said that. I'm getting tired. This was a doozy for sure. So I hope that you guys had fun, and I'll see you later. Bye.